Hello, English 120. As promised, I said that I would send you a video talking about Essay 2. And don't worry, the decor behind me is not mine, so you can make fun of it all you want. Okay, I thought it would be easier to tell you than write to you about some of the revision points for Essay 2. You will, as I said, receive them in the folder outside my mailbox by tomorrow morning. And on it, you will have my comments and some of my other notes so that you can revise Essay 2 for next Monday. It's really, really important that we're all committed to revising Essay 2 for next week. I know that I am not there, so this is my way of at least connecting with you about the essay. Some of my major points that I made on your essays is number 1, sentence level revisions. And I know we've talked about this before, but sentence level revisions is literally about how your sentences read. It's very, very hard to hear that unless you read it out loud. And I'm finding that students, and it's obvious in how the sentences are read when I read them to myself, that people are not reading their essays out loud to people and or having someone read the essay back to you, because you would really hear some of these. And it's not just incorrect grammar, it's that there's a wordiness or an awkwardness to the sentences that when you read them out loud, and a good test for that is try to read your sentence 3 times fast. That's when you know how you have a sentence that's not clear. I want you to be as clear as you possibly can be in your sentences. And that often means taking it from the passive voice to the active voice. For example, I will be passing the corner store on my way home. I will pass the corner store on my way home. I did pass the corner store on my way home. That's active voice. It's taking that will be, and it's usually that word be out of it. So that's important. The other thing is I think that, and it's through no fault of your own, a lot of writing instructors before you told you to write long sentences, right? And my school of thought is to write a lot of short, correct sentences are better than long, incorrect sentences. And what makes that happen is that where you think there's a pause in the sentence, it usually means you need some type of end punctuation. A lot of us put commas, and then that ends up making a run-on sentence. We're actually, with a comma, linking multiple sentences together. So it's actually better when you put a period and end that sentence and start a new sentence. The other thing is we're putting commas where we think we're naturally pausing in sentences, and I'm finding that there's just too many of them. So on many of you, I circled or I wrote, too many commas, misuse of commas. I like to call it comma abuse because we're just throwing commas in where they're really not necessary. And somebody who reads through the paper is going to be able to see that. I encourage all of you to have the paper read by someone in the Writing Center, and I know it's an extra step, but it goes a very long time for your grade. Or if you have somebody at home that you feel like is competent and can see some of these things, have them read it. Please don't just print the paper off literally 5 minutes before class and think that it's going to be ready to go. It really should be read more than one time. That being said, there's some good writing tutors in the Academic Support Center, which is directly in the library. If you're having trouble with research, Fran Keenan is also there. She's the librarian who will join us for class next week. It's a matter of using your resources, and your grades, I guarantee, will improve when you use your resources. Kim Connon is a great writing tutor. She's there. Just one last person to kind of read through your paper. Or take your paper with you with my comments on it and say, you know what, I'm trying to figure out what Professor Sasso is asking for here, and here's the assignment. And that will help a lot as well. So we have sentence level revisions that you will hear and see if you spend a little bit more time on your paper, reading it to someone or reading it back. At this point in the semester, you really need to know your formatting, and that includes MLA. So I'm talking Times New Roman, 12 font, that your heading's correct, 1-inch margins, and that your parenthetical citations that we've been talking about for the last 8 weeks are correct. There is a cheat sheet that I use that's right on Blackboard. Writing Center folks can help you with that as well. The MLA needs to be correct, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. It's all about the parentheses and what goes in them. If you have an author, it's author, last name, and page number. If you don't have an author, it's article and page number. Articles are always in quotation marks. If you don't have that, it's italics, and it's a major work. So a website or a newspaper goes into the parentheses. We always default to page 1 if you cannot find a page number. But don't just default to 1 because you don't feel like going back and looking up the page number. This essay absolutely needs to have 5 sources. You went through a really long research exercise that actually asked you for 8 or 10 sources. You should list anything you looked at in order to help you with this paper. And these need to be on their separate sheet of paper called the Works Cited. It's alphabetized by last name or article number. It's not numbered. It's double spaced just like the rest of your paper. It's in Times New Roman. These things need to look right. So that's formatting stuff. With the sentence piece, it really is, you write good sentences, you will write good paragraphs, you will write a good essay. In terms of content, the whole paper is centered around the thesis statement, right? We're always trying to identify what a thesis statement is in a paper. And for this particular paper, the thesis statement is all about conflict and solution. We're identifying a conflict and we're offering a solution. So your thesis statement is always in your first paragraph, and it is the roadmap for the rest of the essay. You don't necessarily need to list the major arguments and the consequences, but you should at least identify what the conflict is in that first sentence. And what I'm finding is that people are choosing not to use really direct language, and it can be just as direct as the conflict with the heroin epidemic in the state of New Hampshire right now is that we do not know how to treat it. That's that. Now we know what this paper is about, right? And if you want to go one step farther, you can even offer possible solutions in that thesis statement. But I at least want to hear conflict. And in that first paragraph, we need a background of what that conflict is. The intro and the first paragraph should be about whatever the conflict is with your topic. I was really not seeing that in many papers. From there, and again, you can use really, really plain language when you're talking about it. From there, it's one major side of this conflict is blank. And here are the major arguments. So you're writing at least one paragraph, and I would sometimes say two, about what is one side arguing. Okay, so if we're talking about treatment of heroin in New Hampshire, some people are arguing that there needs to be stricter laws about possession and use of heroin. Okay, that needs to be that first section is side 1 believes bop, bop, bop. Okay, and then we need to clearly transition to side 2. The other side, though, argues that the best way to deal with the epidemic, with the heroin epidemic in New Hampshire is better treatment programs, more prevention of use of heroin, rather than reactive. Rather than getting them on the other end when they've already been incarcerated or they're already addicted. Okay, so major points from that side. And then I do clearly want to hear some of the consequences if we continue to deal with the heroin epidemic by using stricter laws. This is what's going to happen. We're going to incarcerate more people. We're not going to deal with their addiction, whatever it might be. And then literally on the other side of that, if we start dealing with the heroin epidemic through recovery, here are some of the consequences that are going to happen. Okay? And last but not least, many of you did not quite get to the compromise or the solution. And the language, again, is just one place that the two sides can meet is. And that can be examples where people are maybe both giving recovery programs to those who are already in jail. It's not saying maybe crack down on the laws, but if they are already incarcerated, how can we help them recover while they're there? Okay, so the biggest part about content was working your way through the outline that I gave you, where you're clearly talking about conflict number 1. Number 2, you're talking about both sides. We need to clearly see what both sides of this argument are. Number 3, we're talking about the consequences of one side or the other getting what they want. And last but not least, we're trying to find some middle ground where they can meet. It might not be the best solution, but there has to be some compromise. That is the goal of the essay. Okay? So content-based, I'm actually going to be reading the essay, and all my notes are on it about, I don't see what the conflict is. I can't identify the two sides. It's not clear in this essay. Consequences are, you might talk about them for one side, but you didn't talk about them for the other, right? And last but not least, here's a meeting ground for both of them. Okay? So if there's things, you can't read my handwriting, whatnot, I am completely willing to sit down with you and look over my notes. Your essays will be in my mailbox tomorrow morning by, I think I said 9:30. I will be in my office most of the day tomorrow. I've slid your essay and any other work that you've given me. If you gave me a revision of essay 1, I graded that as well. And they will all be outside my door. I slid them into their own little folders so that they're confidential. Okay, so your name will be on them. If there are things you need to give to me, you can also slide them in that pocket or slide them under my door if you feel more comfortable. But Essay 3 research exercise is due. Whether I was there or not, that was due for today. Okay? I appreciate your patience. And I hope that we don't miss any more time together this semester. But I am tracking how many of you watched this, okay? And hopefully this was helpful to you in some way. Okay, so I will see you all Monday, if not before then. And if you have not had a one-on-one conference with me, please make sure you email me so that we can do that. If the only time that works is before or after class next week, that's fine. I will make time for you. Okay? Have a good rest of the week. Please continue to stay on track in this class. And make sure by Thursday you pick up your revisions so that you're able to turn them in on Monday. Okay, thanks all. Bye.